in this lesson it's not so much about learning new stuff as it is to use the stuff that you have learned. So I will create a tile, or several tiles in this case. I will fill it with index information, and in this case it will be an image, an atlas that I have split into different parts. So you can see it starts with 0, then goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and up to 9, and then it starts all over again. And how we create this example, I will go through with the notes above, and I will not let you create each node because it's a lot of nodes and it's something that you already learned. So I will just go through it, and you can pick up the blend file and play with it in your course instead. So let's start from every step here, or the beginning. So what I have in this is an image texture that is called alphabet. And if we just look at that texture from the beginning, how it looks, then I can just disconnect this and I can connect this color into the surface here. So this is a rather simple image that I did in Blender, where I only added some textures in here, or some characters. And you can see it goes from 0 up here and then it goes down here. Now remember that the UV in Blender starts 0 down here. So to get the numbers up here, I had to jump 4 steps up, and then I could play with these numbers, and that we can change easily, and I will show you all how that works in just a few seconds. But this is the base texture that I use. No other texture, just this one. So we can connect everything again. I just take this to that part and I take this to this part, so we are back again. So we have that texture. Then I have a tile that I made, and the tile is made as simple as possible. So what I did was that I use an X and a Y value that I put in. So this is the X, and I can change it. So if I change it to 10, you can see that it changes to 10, and also that the numbers here, they are then adapted to the size of the tiles. And if I put it to 4 here and I put it to 8 here, yes, they will be a bit distorted, the numbers here, but it will very well fit into all the tiles here. So it works as it should with these. And the tile, this tile here, that I did with this formula here, which means that I took the UV in, multiplied by whatever we put in here. I can turn this because it looks more nice like that. So I get now 10 by 10. I multiply that with my UV, like you can see here. And then this is more or less just for an adjustment of where the tiles should be. So you can see they are moving now in different direction, and if I move them a half tile up and down, you will get them perfectly here. So then I just take a fraction, which means that the multiply I did before will then be divided into small parts that goes from 0 to 1 that we can use to create a tile. And then we, as normal, move the center a bit so it came to the center of the UV, and we made an absolute, so that means that the left side of the tile will be exactly the same as the right side of the tile. And then I use the smooth minimum to create the base tile, and with smooth minimum, if you remember, I could then play with the corners here by changing the distance between these two. So if I want they to be rather square, then I use a small distance, and if I want them to be round, then I just increase this a bit. So that is how that works. And if I only use smooth minimum, then this will go all the way up here. You will get like a sphere here. To cut that so we get a plane or flat, then I use a map range here, and we can put that to smoother step to get it really nice. And here I decide how height I would like to have on my tile before I flat it out. So if I put this up, you can see it gets rounder and rounder here, and if I put it down, you get a flatter and flatter image until 0 is totally flat. So that is how you create the tiles. But if I don't use this add here, then you will get these to be half, 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 half. As you can see, they start as a half a tile, they end as a half a tile. But just by adding the add here and just moving the tiles half a step, then I get everything as I should. So that makes everything up here, and the result for that is looking like this. So I have in my map range reversed this. So instead of using 0 to 1 to get white tiles, I use 1 to 0 because I would like that to be combined with the numbers that they get from a texture, and they are like white numbers. And if I then take the maximum, then I get the white numbers here, and I get the white mortar or edges from the tiles. And then yes, I do an invert of the color, so the edges will then be back to black again, and so will the numbers, or at least they will get to a more grayscale. So we get it like this. So that is how I make the tiles. Then about getting everything out from this atlas is always the same as we do normally, which means that I decide how many tiles or parts that should be in the X direction. So that I put in here, and in our texture it was 10 because it was 0 to 9 in the first or last row, depending how you calculate or count, and then you got all the numbers for the alphabet and so on. So 10 in one row like this, and in the other direction, in the Y direction, we had 5 different rows. So 10 in X direction, 5 in Y direction, and if we then combine those and divide that with UV, we get one simple tile here. But you can't use the UV that you use from the image, because then you will not take the information that we have from the tiles here. So what I do here is that I take the normal UV, then I multiply that with the amount of tiles that I do for the tiling here, and that result, which is much bigger than 0 to 1, because this is the multiply of 10 by 10, so it's 0 to 1 up to these, which mean about 100 in this case. So I put those 100 into this fraction and use that as the base for the UV, which means that these numbers that I get from this texture is really, really small from the beginning, but then they fit into this here. So that is the combination that is really hard to grasp from the beginning, that instead of just using the UV, we need to use the UV that is transformed and changed for the tiles here. So these numbers then will fit the tiles. So we take that after we have changed the settings for the tiles. So first we do the tiles, then we take the information, split it down to 0 to 1 factors, and then our texture is not perfect, so I just added a small fine adjustment, so you can move the numbers here as you can see a bit. So that is what I did here. I was just putting in some adjustment for the X and the Y, and also for the size. So if I change this, you see I get smaller sizes and bigger sizes. But by adding this in here, then I could adjust the texture so it fits in a good way into my tiles here. And that adjustment will then follow all the way if I change the tiles here, since this is the first information. then if I subtract and multiply stuff here, it will still scale correctly and move correctly to the x or left and right, so to say. And then I take out the information that I had from the atlas and divide that with the information here, and then we get the information that this is the part 1 or the part 2 or 3 in our base image here. But we also need to do the normal stuff, that we offset the x and y with just one part, and that we have learned. It comes with modulo, it comes with atlas, it comes with most of the math that we do, that we take the image and we divide it, or we take the value and then we divide it by 1, or 1 divided by that value, to get the size of one part. So the size for one part in the x direction for the image will be 1 divided by what you put in here, and the same for the y direction, so 1 divided by what you put in here. So that we can then use to move our atlas back and forth. And if I take away this here, so then we don't get the index, because all that stuff is the index that we learned in the last lesson. Then you can see here that I can move with the x direction, then I can move this like that, and in the y direction I can move it up and down like this. And you of course need floor numbers, meaning no decimals here, to make it look good. But this, if you use that, you can then move all the stuff back and forth as you want to. And in this case, what I did was that I moved it up 4 steps, because then we get the row that contained 0 to 9. And then I just changed this with the index that I got from the UV down here. So here's the calculation that I hope you learned from the last lesson, that I take the UV out after I multiplied it with the amount of tiles, take the floor, and then separate x, y, z, and the x we add, and the y we multiply with the value that we had on the value for y-axis for the tiles here. And then we got the index. So then we got out here 1, 2, 3, 4, or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on out. And that we could then use to offset the image as well. So then I just take that index and put it up here. And I get the 4th row with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. And then I just offset the numbers one step at a time with this amount here that we have calculated, because it's 10 different parts of our texture. So if I now change this for like 3 or something, then I start on the alphabet instead of the numbers, since that is how my texture looks when I just take the texture right out. I can take it once more just so you can see it. So this is my texture. So as I said, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that will be this. Now I changed it to 3, then it jumps down 1 step, so then it will be A, B, C, D, and if I had take 2, then you get this row instead. If I have offset the y with 1, then I got this row instead. So the offset is how I get these numbers here. So now I can go back again and put that in and put that in, so we get it in here. So we could, if we want to, add other things here besides the index, to get that I would like to have 0, 1, 1, 0, 4, for instance. Then I need to put those numbers in here. So I put in 0, 1, and what I know. I don't remember what I said, but you just put in those numbers here, and you will get that as an output instead of getting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, for instance, if I use a modular here, so I also showed you in the last lesson, then I just put in converter, math, put that in here, and put in modular. Let's see if we can find it, or 3. Then you can see 0, 1, 2, as exactly as I showed you in the last example, but that was in just the grayscale. Now we get the texture here. Then we get that in, and if we want 4 numbers, then we just use 4 here. Then we get 0, 1, 2, 3, and if we want to 5, yeah, and so on. So you see how we can do it. And we can also just write a number right in here. But that is how we add the index here. So, conclusion is, could be rather complex, but if you have that, this is as an example, you can see how you can combine atlas and index, creating different procedural patterns that I did here with the tile here, and still get everything to work in a good way by just taking it step by step. So first do the procedural stuff with the tile or whatever, then use the UV that you have after you have calculated how big each part should be of the tiles. Then calculate the size of the image and add that by dividing that to the information you got from the first UV that we had with the tiles. I know it's a bit complicated, but that is also why I got it as a blend file instead of we do every node for itself. So, and of course, you can of course change this to whatever image you want to do. So if you want a small different flying birds here, or a running person, or other numbers or whatever, just change this. It will work the same way if we use, for instance, let's see what we had. We had these, for instance, we can take these. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the only thing we have to remember. So I take in those, and then now it's grayscale, but I think I said 5 here and I said 4 here. Then I get those birds in here instead of getting the numbers in. And now I just used a maximum here, so we don't get the colors in here, but we could use the colors here. You can see we get everything in a good way, and we can combine that with this using a color mix instead. So color mix RGB, put that in and put that in the top here, so like that, for instance. And of course you can then take this to 0 to 1, and you have the tiles, and then you have to change this a bit, yeah, and then invert. It will be a little bit complicated to mix this in this case, because I use color and I use black and white, but you see how it works anyway. So yeah, this was more, as I said, to go through everything so you know how it works when you combine it. A little bit more complicated when compared to what we have done previously, but hopefully you see how it works, and I urge you to really play with this blend file, change things, add different texture, try to put in your own numbers, do whatever you want, just to see how everything fits together to really understand these things. So I will just say bye for now and see you in the next lesson.